Alright, so in the last video we reviewed graphing lines kind of quickly and a couple of, a vertical line, a horizontal line. In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to review how to find the equation of a line. Again, about the only thing different than maybe how we would have seen this in a basic algebra is that we're going to use function notation. So number one, find the linear function. So what we have to realize is this is the same thing as saying find the equation of the line. So when we see find the linear function, find the equation of the line that satisfies, so that would have been like saying the equation of the line that goes through f of 8 equals -3. That's the ordered pair 8, -3. And f of 4 equals -8. That would be the ordered pair 4, -8. So some of it's just getting used to maybe seeing a slightly different phrasing on the problem that you would have done before, but now it's just worded a little differently. So finding the linear function is really going to mean finding the equation of the line that goes through these 2 points. We'll just want to make sure we use, like at the very end, some function notation. All right, so to find the equation of the line, the first thing that we do is we need the slope. So to find an equation of a line, we need a point, which we have covered. We have 2 points. And we need the slope, which we don't have here, so we have to find it. So remember, slope is change in y over change in x. So if you want to label one point as x1, y1, and maybe the other one is x2, y2, you could do that if you find it helpful. And so our y2 is -8, minus is part of the slope formula. The y sub 1 is -3, divided by the x2, in this case is 4, minus in the formula, and then the x1 is 8. So obviously we have to be careful when you have that subtracting that negative, that's going to change it into addition. And so -8 plus 3 is going to give us -5, and 4 minus 8 is going to be -4. And so we're going to have negative over negative, kind of the only reducing we can do is to make that positive 5/4. All right, now our second step is going to be to find the equation of the line. And there are 2 different ways you can go about this. You can either use point slope formula. And point slope formula, if you remember, is on the first page, if you forgot, or the last page. But it is that y minus the y coordinate, so let's say y sub 1, and then equals the m, we sub in our slope, and then times the quantity of x minus, and then the x sub 1 is an x coordinate, so that x1, y1 is a point on the line. Or, and I'll come to method 2 in a second, so let's stick with method 1 for right now. So the y minus, and if I'm going to sub in, and I can pick either point, I'll just take that first one, the 8, -3. So y minus the -3, that's the y coordinate, equals the m, we just found the slope was 5/4, times the quantity of x minus the x1 there was 8. So what we have is we now have this y plus 3 equals, and final answer, we have to solve it for y, so we can use our function notation, so we're going into slope intercept. So our first term here is going to be the 5/4 x minus, and then we just have a little arithmetic to do here. The 5/4 times the 8 over 1, the 8 over 4 reduces to 2, or 4 into 4 once into 8 twice. So that, and maybe you were able to do that without showing that work, but that second term there is going to become a -10. And then our last step would be to subtract the 3 over to the other side. And so now using function notation, we're going to replace the y. Now that we've solved for y, we'll replace that with an f of x equals, and now we have our 5/4 x minus 13. That would be the equation of our line. Now, the other approach is what I used to call the find the b method, which basically says if my goal is y equals mx plus b, and I already know the m, I can sub in the m, so y equals the 5/4 x, and the only thing that I need then is to find the b. And so we find the b by subbing in any xy ordered pair that's on the line temporarily, just as a way to solve for b. Because if an ordered pair is on the line, then it has to satisfy the equation. So what we have here is the -3. So again, I'm using that first ordered pair. -3 goes in for the y, is going to equal 5/4 times in for the x is going to be the 8, and then plus b, which is what we're going to be solving for. So you'll notice neither one is necessarily easier or harder. It's the exact same arithmetic. So we just did over here 5/4 times 8, and we saw that that was 10. And so, the last step then, we're just going to subtract our 10 to the other side. And then we get that the b is equal to that -13. The only thing you have to be careful with this method is that you go back to the original goal, which was to write this as an equation. B is not your answer. It was just the final piece of the puzzle, if you will. So I don't care which way you find the equation of a line, you just have to remember how to do one of them. Okay, so that's how we can find the equation of a line, and then also we're using our function notation. Okay, let's look at one more here. So on number 2, suppose that we were asked to find the equation of the line, not lime, find the equation of the line that goes through, and I'm going to give us a couple of points here, that goes through 7, 4, and 7, -2. All right, so let's think about what we did up above. We always said the first thing we needed was the slope. So that's going to be the first thing that we have to find here is our slope. So our slope would be change in y, so -2 minus that 4, y2 minus y1 over x2, 7, minus x1, which is also 7. So I end up with -6 over 0. Remember, a non-zero number divided by 0, that is undefined. So you can't exactly sub the word undefined into the point slope formula, or you can't sub it into the equation in any way. So this should remind you that you have one of your special cases. So then maybe you kind of think to yourself, well, wait, which one is it? Maybe it's been a little while. I'm not 100% sure here. And so we think about plotting those 2 points, and we have the point 7, 4, and then we also have the point 7, -2. And so pretty quickly we come to the conclusion, oh yeah, this was a vertical line. And vertical lines, these are the only ones that aren't functions, but they have an equation. That's why I said in this one I didn't say find the function. They do have an equation, and these have the equation. So think about all the points that satisfy the equation. They all have that x coordinate that is 7. So x is 7.